Now this week, the Property Council's PR man, George Inglis, caused uproar when he described the city as a pathetic backwater. His comments were in response to criticism of the Adelaide Oval redevelopment. He said parochial pettiness was killing a chance to make the city great. But what if there was a way to really transform the city, minus the multi-million-dollar price tag? James Hancock has discovered a plan to do just that.
I'm sick of Adelaide and its citizens. As long as I'm in this business, and when I'm long gone, if anyone ever asks me what has pissed me off the most in this job, it's the attitude of South Australians, that it's all too bloody difficult. Let's all move to Melbourne and let this fester in its own juices.
Development, Adelaide and controversy are never far from one another. It's the big-ticket projects such as the Adelaide Oval upgrade and Victoria Square redevelopment that get all the public attention. Behind them, though, many city streets are strewn with empty buildings. And while the developers and pollies point fingers, these people are doing something about it. This may still look like a daggy old shop, destined for a date with the demolishers, but for these volunteers, it's urban renewal come true.
Yeah, I'm thinking having a lounge face here, so it's a little lounge room space.
They're creating what they describe as a lounge room in the city for people to meet without having to spend money. And right next door, Julie White and two other young fashion designers are working just as hard. They've finally finished sweeping out all of the dust from their new shop. From here, they'll be able to both create and sell their original designs.
The texture looks really nice. Yeah, he sort of had the idea that that might look a bit like embroidery.
The young designers have just graduated from TAFE and are keen to launch a label.
We're just set out into the world on our own, and this gives us the opportunity with the support that we need to really promote ourselves and put ourselves out there in the public eye.
But what's not immediately visible is that these shops and people are part of a much bigger project. It's called Renew Adelaide and hopes to bring new life into city dead spots. It's taken Organiser Ware 6 months to get to this point. He says the most important thing was convincing property owner George Kambitsis to surrender the keys to 2 Hindley Street shops that have been vacant for years.
Renew Adelaide is an attempt to utilise empty spaces, empty shop fronts, empty office space, whatever we can find, to give that to community groups who will bring something back to the streets of Adelaide.
Changing what the West End Association's Andrew Wallace says is an all too often pretty grim experience. So Andrew, what's wrong with this street?
Well, this street really has all the hallmarks of an unloved Adelaide side street. It's got buildings in a state of disrepair, it's got a vacant lot on one side, it's got a car park at one end, and we have no activity whatsoever on this street.
No one wants to see vacant buildings in the city, and certainly there are a lot of buildings that are being held by property developers, maybe not necessarily getting the rents they ask.
So how many empty shops and offices are there across Adelaide? Well, no one seems to know. Neither the City Council nor the Property Council could put a figure on it when Stateline asked. But this street seems like a pretty good example. This building has a for lease sign, there's plenty more up the road, and many buildings are in need of some TLC. While the Renew project is a first for Adelaide, Marcus Westbury has tried it before in his hometown of Newcastle on the New South Wales north coast. Like parts of Adelaide, the Steel City had lost a bit of its shine, with a city centre littered with empty buildings. Also like Adelaide, it was searching for a big transformational project, which Marcus Westbury thinks is a waste of time.
I think one of the big problems has been that Newcastle tends to be looking for a big-scale solution, whether that's about removing a rail line or a single development of any kind or whatever, and that is magically going to transform things.
Marcus Westbury believes it's far more effective and cheaper to concentrate on smaller scale projects using existing buildings.
One of the really interesting things that we've noticed is that occupied buildings are not attracting anywhere near the same amount of vandalism that unoccupied ones are. A big part of what the people that are in our spaces are doing is agreeing to maintain them, clean them up and make them presentable so that this sort of stuff doesn't happen.
In Adelaide, tenants will generally sign on to a 30-day rolling lease. They don't pay the owners rent, but it's not entirely free because the buildings have to be made safe. For now, the City Council is picking up the tab, recognising that because it's in its infancy, the project will need all the help it can get.
Well, they've been working for a long time, but we're really starting to gather speed.
Councillor Stephen Yarwood says there are plenty of other buildings ripe for renewal.
Pioneer Street first comes to mind. There are a number of vacant buildings, and there's a real sense that we need to do something about Pioneer Street. Rundle Mall has a tremendous number of buildings with the first floors empty, and there's a really exciting opportunity to activate those beautiful heritage buildings, and also the laneways. We really need to draw people into these laneways and make them an asset, not a liability.
How far the project can go will depend in part on property owners. In the end, they hold the keys, both figuratively and literally. So far though, Yanto Ware is happy with the response he's getting.
At the moment, we'll just see what kind of ongoing support we can get. We've got another few spaces lined up that will hopefully open in the next couple of months at the latest. We've got a vast array of community groups looking for space, and we'll just keep going and see what happens.
People go to where people are, and if you can actually establish places where particularly young people will actually congregate during the day or early evening, I think you'll see that the successful, in fact, breeds success.